I am interested in the reasons and motives behind what led you to choose this life, first as a practitioner, and second as someone who is doing this for a living, if you're doing it for a living, which is what you're doing. And the main reason behind doing these interviews is so that I could put them online and they could act as a resource for other people that choose to pursue it as a living
Mm.
or to pursue it as something that they want to do for the sake of its own enjoyment. Uh,
It's actually a really common question I get on Instagram. It's interesting because you asked me as well. I'm pretty sure a while ago on messages, and there's been a few people. There's a guy today even that asked me. I've got a few questions. What do you do and how you did it? And it's like it's really interesting. This whole kind of shift of people moving in the direction not of just pursuing the practice for a physical practice, but as a job or as a work. It's something that's.
because I see you, for example, and you seem to have a lot of time for your practice,
Mhm.
and you also seem to project the image, at least on social media, that you do this for a living,
Mhm.
and it looks great. I mean, everything looks great on social media, right?
Of course,
And
always.
I'm interested in, well, a number of themes. One is, how do you manage to pursue such an intensive physical practice regularly and consistently while building what I would call a business around it? There's a lot of problems with this, because sometimes when you turn something that's a hobby into work, something that is pleasure into work, you slowly lose.
No, it's a really interesting conversation because it's the biggest thing in my life right now that it's a challenge and it's something that I don't have figured out because it's also something I've been asking myself over and over again. It's like, can I see myself doing this for the rest of my life? Do I want to be doing this for the rest of my life? Do I want to be earning money from something I love to do myself? And it's something that came around. Yes, I really wanted it, but also it was very much I progressed in a direction that enabled me to. First of all, the online coaching stuff was something that it came around from external pressures and people asking me. But that was the original. Okay, maybe that would be a viable option, especially with all the traveling I did the last 2 or 3 years. So that was how it began. It wasn't me going, I'm going to be an online coach. That's what I want to do. That's why I'm practicing this. It never was this. But now there's been a whole shift of, okay, wow, I not only have to study this and play with this and do this for me, it's now, okay, I'm doing this with a whole new mindset of how can I share this with someone else, which has been both a positive and a negative thing. Mainly positive because it's got such more depth in my practice and I've been able to progress so much more in many things, and also put me in contact with many new people, which has been really special. And it's also highlighted the need for community, for um, social interactions, because it's something that I sacrifice so much. Like, well, you know yourself, when you travel a lot, you have sporadic connections with people. You have, you know, times when you're lonely a lot. Um, so
But what would the okay? So that would be one of the negative aspects of living the life of a person that travels a lot uh, to teach.
Well, actually, the traveling for me wasn't to teach. It never was about teaching. The traveling for me was about learning. The traveling for me was, I want to go meet these amazing people that I see on my Instagram feed. I don't want to just see them on the Instagram feed. I want to go and meet them, learn from them, do stuff with them, interact with them, and really see what it all is about.
Uh,
And then in turn, this whole where I am now came around from that. It never was the other way around. It never was, I want to be where I am now, therefore I'm going to do this, this, and this, and this. It never was this. It was simply, I'm studying this degree at university. It's not what I want to do. I've been exposed to the German sports university, Deutsche Sporthochschule, had the most amazing time there, and thought, wow, let's go from here. I've got this amazing platform, a tool, let's say, to use, Instagram. Why not use it? So I just went around and harassed people, messaged people, made some connections here and there, the guys in Berlin, and so on and so forth, and things
just snowballed from there.
Exactly, yeah. It was never intended any other way than me simply living how I wanted to live there and then, which, yes, may have been expedient, may have been not the most economically responsible use of my money, but that's what I want to do.
Pause there. The most economic. You're saying it wasn't. It may not have been the most economical
in the short term
use of your money in the short term. What do you mean by that?
So let's say financing the myriad of trips I had the last, let's say, 3 years, meant that I slept on the floor of most people that I came in contact with, because I didn't have the financial means to support myself with rent, for example. Which meant that I was living off mostly savings, because my university life wasn't the normal university life. I knew very early on that I didn't enjoy the partying and senseless drinking every day of every week, and I kept away from that, and I saved as much money as I could, and all the loans that I got, because in England it's super expensive, so you have to have loans unless you're really rich, which unfortunately I'm not. Rather than spending them on living, as in what the students do is go out party all the time, I did my sport, kept my head down, got it done, and travel whenever possible. So when I left university, I actually had, £1,000 or £2,000 in the bank, ready to rock and roll. So as soon as I left, I didn't even go to the ceremony. I was gone. It was like, okay, I'm done. I'm out. I don't have to. I'm not obliged to be here anymore. I have some money and I want to travel. I also, in the meantime, I'd been offered a couple of like side jobs, like the modeling, like I said to you, was something that not an industry that I aspire to be part of at all, but also it was a useful time that enabled me to travel and work at the same time. I've been doing that, past couple of years in the dark, in the shadows.
It reminds me of what Jordan Peterson says sometimes. It's like, if you're not exactly where you want to be and a door opens up, no job is really beneath you if it's going to help you move in the direction you want to eventually.
Exactly. And he also says about the game. He says, the game's all about how much time are you willing to invest and what is the maximum return you can get from that. And the great thing about, let's say that's the capitalist mindset, the capitalist game. The great thing about jobs such as modeling or the jobs that I've sought after, aside from my teaching and the movement stuff, is jobs that I can get the most gain from the minimal input, let's say, knowing that they're not long-term things. So that's something that I've, like, now I nanny, so I look after a kid 2 days a week.
I was wondering if it was your younger brother when you told me you're going to be home nanny.
No. It's just one of my buddies is a great buddy of mine. He was doing this job for years, and he's trying to get to the UFC. So he's really trying to focus on his fight game now, and he couldn't give 2 or 3 days a week away because it's all day, So I needed a place in London to live and to do some stuff, and we made an agreement, and it, things kind of happen, Came back from Australia on the big trip I did last year, and it was like, okay, I'm starting from rock bottom. I have less money than I had at university, and I got to do something. And that's when I really started to push the online coaching a bit more, and really see Instagram as a monetary tool, not just a tool for connection. because I always had this moral problem with using social media for money because I didn't really understand what it was. You know, it's
What
interesting.
was what social media was, or what
Yeah,
money
yeah, yeah,
was?
yeah, yeah. I, for me, it was I really was this kind of bashfully unaware kid of like I downloaded it pretty late on in the when was it? Probably 2013, whatever it was, maybe 14 even. Um, didn't have a clue what it was, and these my friends were posting stuff on it, and I just thought, okay, it's a social thing, the same as MySpace, whatever.
Mhm.
And gradually, I started to travel more and more and more, and it became really useful to connect with other people and see things. And I'd search Instagram when I was ever in a new city for like some hashtag about food or place or whatever it might be, and I'd look at cool places, and that was how I got around.
Mhm.
So I used it very much for travel, connections, other people, learning, and then eventually I realized, okay, so I'm consuming this, so I might as well consume things that I want to consume rather than just mindlessly consuming. So I gradually tailored my consumption to what is eventually now the movement stuff, basically.
Moving culture, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So um, it kind of lost the head of steam on that one. My brain seems to always do this. I'm getting used to these conversations, man. It's fun.
Ah,
It's like
man,
coming
this
three.
is exactly the kind of conversation I want to have. I don't want to have. For me, it was important that I do not structure the interview as an interview, and I keep it more as a conversation with a colleague or a conversation with a friend,
Mhm.
uh, and see where it goes. You know, that's pretty much how, for example, how Joe Rogan structures his interviews
Yeah,
to a
yeah,
large
yeah.
extent. It depends on the guest. When he had Jordan Peterson, he was probably a lot more prepared.
Well, you'd say that, but they're actually quite big buddies nowadays. And I think
Yeah,
actually the
yeah,
most recent one was pretty, let's bring
casual.
up a topic and JP go.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
He's so intelligent and he's so good now at
But I
talking.
guess it's just somewhat intimidating when you know you're going to have that person as a guest
Mm,
on your show for the
mm.
first time.
Yeah, exactly. That's the thing. That's the thing.
Yeah, so the thing is, you know, the first two interviews, I was high as fuck and having an interview with people. And I realized, okay, maybe that's not the best approach. And I'm figuring it out as I'm going along.
Whatever
But
works for you, man.
what I like is this a genuine interaction with the person I'm speaking with, and to know about to know about the reasons why you chose um, to do it for a living and to do it as a practitioner. So now we have an idea. Now we have, like, we've painted a picture as to, you know, the sacrifice you had to make in order to live the life that you've been living the past few years.
I would just to pause back at you.
Yeah, yeah.
um, it's better to talk about this in the present because saying chose dictates that I've made it somewhere or I've done something. I'm very, very, very much, and I'm very aware that I'm completely in the middle of something.
Hmm.
I have no idea where I'm exactly where I'm heading. I've been trying to focus that with the help of Jordan Peterson, and it's still a work in progress as always. But I'm very much working in the middle of something, and I haven't got it figured out. And this is the problem with social media is that people think others have it figured out and they haven't got a clue, and this other person knows more than them, and it's constant consumption and comparisons with other people sometimes isn't useful if you're moving forward in a direction that you feel you should be moving forward into. And this is the big problem: is that when we consume unuseful or unhelpful people, let's say, or pages, we get so overwhelmed and confused. If, for example, anyone has an opinion nowadays, and it used to be so, okay, yeah, but you have an opinion, but it's not valid because you'd know some background. Nowadays, it can be an anonymous opinion, and it's a quote or a picture or a do this and do that, and no one has a clue anymore if it's validated and relevant to them, or if it's just some random guy like 24-year-old kid who's writing a blog and has written something and oh yeah 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 oh yeah, that must be true, or that must be helpful because he said so, and he can do a like a one-arm handstand.
Yeah. It reminds me of a post I put. Somebody shared something along the lines of, what was it, like 70% of men commit suicide, 37% of men uh, die in wars.
Mm.
It was very like male focused, and at the very end of the statistics, it says something like the idea that women are oppressed is laughable.
Mm. That's
But but
probably from a
but
Jordan Peterson talk actually, because that's kind of the stance that he takes sometimes.
yeah. But he validates his information with cogent arguments, and if he mentioned certain statistics that may or may not be exactly accurate, but if you were to follow up on them with him, he would probably send you papers that
Mm-hmm.
kind of
Clara,
prove his point.
Clara, yeah.
This was like a meme kind of thing on Facebook. So I posted it on Facebook. The funny thing was the idea that women are oppressed is laughable had two typos in it. Uh, and I and I saw it and I was like, I am going to share this because I know this is going to provoke.
It's autocorrect, man. It's a nightmare.
So I share the thing, and some people liked it and shared it. Some people got really, really offended by it. But the point was, people took it seriously.
Mm,
They
mm,
took a meme that I posted on Facebook that had typos in it. If it has typos in it, if the main argument at the end of the statistics had two typos in it, how could you trust that the numbers are correct? And it's kind of, it reminded me of what you just said. People no longer take the time to uh, verify whether or not the information they get online is accurate and true.
which they may not. It's hard to blame someone when you if you compare someone now compared to 50 years ago, the amount of information consumed per day is astronomically more. It's unbelievably more.
Yep.
So of course we can't go around verifying all of the information we consume. It's just now it's just simply not possible unless you're going to become a what Elon Musk is talking about, where you've got a chip implants in your brain and you can upload your mind to the web and check it instantaneously. Google Maps is now in your brain, and yada yada yada. You're infinitely more intelligent with a chip in your brain. Then maybe we have something to talk about. But aside from that, when we're normal humans, it's not possible, dude. It's tough. That's why I really believe that we have to consciously limit ourselves. We can't we can't just randomly consume all this stuff and actually get annoyed or feel certain ways about these un how can you say it,
I
these
have a feeling
biased
for you.
or unfounded statistics, opinions, words. It's all just words, man.
Yeah.
Until you have a a, uh, a perspective or an area that it's specific and you know where it's coming from. Everything is so dependent on perspective, dude. It's such a you can take that statistic and you can go, well, yeah, okay, that's relevant and useful to I don't know men that have just come out of the army, let's say, and
Or it might be specific to people in the US, or it might be
right,
specific to a specific state inside the US.
exactly,
It's
exactly.
like
And
it's
this is the problem with media as well. Media, general media nowadays is no longer simply sharing information that is needs to be shared. It's now they'll pick and choose information that they think will be economically and more likely the best for social media.
Yeah, the most sensationalist information is the kind of information that's going to attract views, and views equals, eyes. And as the more eyes you have on your product, or the more eyes you have on your article, then the more adverts you could sell. And
That's the thing. I mean, I watched the other day. I just started watching the Black Mirror series. I never saw it before, and I literally, I think it was yesterday or 2 days ago, I watched the one where the prime minister was made to have sex with the pig.
I don't
Have
remember
you
that
seen this
one.
one?
Somebody else
Dude,
mentioned that one.
it's
Yeah.
perfect for this conversation right now. So
Okay.
what happens is the princess of England, theoretically or hypothetically, is kidnapped.
Okay.
And there's a ransom video posted on YouTube saying, we will free the girl, the princess. We only have one request. And it's if the prime minister sleeps with the pig. And he's like, not a chance. Not a chance. No way. Never going to happen. And everyone's like, no, it's never going to happen. We'll catch this guy. He's just a loony, no time. Don't worry. And it basically goes through the next 6 hours of the day, because it has to be done by 4 p.m. or something. And it shows that basically he's pressured into doing it simply from the media, the amount of tweets for and against him doing this deed. Should he save the princess by sleeping with the pig, yes or no? And simply from public opinion alone on Twitter, on social media, let's say, it started the day at a percentage like 16% for and everyone against. And then as things got more later in the day and they didn't find the princess, it turned to like 86% for. So he's in a situation now where the whole nation, 86% of the nation
Voted. Yeah.
were for the act.
Yeah.
So what happens? He has sex with a pig on live television. They broadcast it to live television. But here's the interesting thing. Everyone tunes into live television because it's on every screen all over the place. So everyone stops work. Everyone's off the streets. The streets of London are completely empty. Everyone's in bars or shops or wherever's got a TV to watch this deed, to watch this prime minister have sex with a pig. The guy that has the princess lets her go half an hour before the guy has sex with the pig. But everyone was so obsessed with watching it, they weren't on the streets to see this princess, half dazed from being sedated, stumbling through the streets looking for someone for help before the guy had done it. And it was basically a statement to say, well, I couldn't figure out what exactly the final statement was, but it was something like, beware of what you consume and the pressure that social media brings, and open your eyes or something. It was like,
Yeah.
wow,
It's
insane.
every single episode in Black Mirror feels like an aphorism. It's you need time to digest aphorisms. It doesn't just hit you like that. Oh yeah, I get the moral of the story.
Yeah.
Nah,
It's not. It shouldn't be an obvious one. That's not quality.
exactly. It makes you think.
Mm.
And you might not be able to structure it in a single sentence because it tackles multiple social issues. It's not just one.
Yeah. And it's awesome. That's the type of thing that you want to consume. That's like, wow.
Yeah, Black Mirror. I think it's the modern day Twilight Zone. If you've ever watched Twilight Zone,
No, I haven't.
Twilight
I'm really
Zone.
bad with TV.
Twilight Zone was a series from the 60s, 70s. Same kind of concept.
Mhm.
They would
Challenging modern day, or let's say
challenging
future
modern
day.
day. But back
So
then,
basically, they would have been portraying what we live now.
in
Or
their
they
own
were
way, in their own interpretation of how the future would look like.
Okay. And have you seen it?
I've watched multiple episodes, and
Does it bear any resemblance to what we know?
to some extent, maybe not in terms of technology. Not. I don't think anybody could have predicted social media.
No.
The outcome of social media, how it ended up nowadays. Nobody could have predicted it.
No one can still predict it because it's changing every single day.
Exactly.
I had this conversation today. It's like I was talking to this guy, and he was studying politics, and one of his modules at university was to do with big data in politics. And he was saying it's interesting because what I'm learning right now, tomorrow will be useless.
Hmm.
It's changing so quickly. Whatever we can learn about it, when we catch it, it's gone because it's changed already. It's moving that fast, and it's changing that rapidly. It's like Yuval Noah Harari, the guy that wrote
Yeah.
all these books,
Sapiens.
Sapiens, and
Sapiens.
um, he's saying this is why I'm so fond of the movement practice as well. By the way, as a segue, but basically he said that the key trait for an individual moving forward in the modern world or in the future worlds will be the ability to adapt and embrace change. Because all, let's call them disciplines or jobs that are useful or have seemed to be useful in historical times, like doctors, high-end jobs, like practitioner jobs, they'll be replaced by robots. Way more efficient and way more able to distinguish between moral problems that we have because we have empathy. They can simply put an algorithm into a robot, and he'll do the same thing every single time with no emotional baggage whatsoever. So if the answer is, if this patient has X symptom, give them X pill, even if the doctor knows, but X pill may give them this side effect, he may not do it. They can just go, robot, this pill. Everything's easy, done, boom. So, doctors, what are you going to do? You spend 5 years at university, all of a sudden you've got no job, or let's say more than half. As a random figure from my head, it's like, okay, if you can't adapt, if you can't, the mindset of having a career for 50 years is no longer viable. You know, the mindset of our parents' generation of, I'm going to have this job, and when I leave school, I'm going to get this qualification. I'm now going to do this for the rest of my life. In the modern day world, so say we are no longer going to have this world of static jobs, at least for the most part. So the new thing will be, rather than 50 years one job, it might be 5 years one job. Oh, a robot's come and done that. Now we're going to,
Or it's jobs that it's jobs like, for example, people working in IT, right?
Mhm.
People working in IT, that will never be replaced. I don't think that will ever be replaced by robots, because one thing,
Definitely doomed.
robots cannot be creative.
Mhm. Well, yes,
Robots, yet.
and they can't be. I mean, my immediate thought there would be, oh man, if a robot is self-determining, so he's creating himself, that's when things will start to have problems.
Yes, but I don't think that's ever going to happen. And this is the thing. We're entering a completely different topic, the topic of AI,
Yeah.
artificial intelligence. And there's a distinction between hard AI and soft AI. And hard AI would be the people that believe that robots will at some point uh, be designed in such a way where they have free will,
Mm-hmm.
in a way where they can become conscious of themselves. I highly doubt that's ever going to happen. In order for that to happen, we're entering territory that I don't have enough knowledge about. Okay, but we would have to be able to define
Conscience.
consciousness.
Yeah. Consciousness.
And there are philosophers like Daniel Dennett, and there are philosophers that work in AI, and they're trying to make sense of it.
The question is always why as well.
it's a question. Can we create something that has free will, consciousness, intelligence? It's this strange desire of humans. They want to be able to control everything, and I honestly think it's because we're so scared shitless of dying, uh, and we want to find a way to
Eternally live.
yeah, to make ourselves immortal.
I wouldn't
Uh,
want that.
um, I don't think I would want that either. It makes life so much precious knowing that you're gonna die.
Well, it's the same thing as belief systems. Money, for example. If money were endless, it wouldn't be worth anything. It's just every single thing that is limited is worth something. As soon
Yep.
as aluminium used to be more expensive than gold. As soon as they found ways to make aluminium in mass quantity, we now wrap our sandwiches in it.
Yeah,
Everything that becomes limitless or
that was a good analogy.
in large quantities, it's crazy. It's crazy. It's the same as if life was like that, then welcome to communism on steroids.
Well, there's this really nice book called The Grasshopper, which was written by what's his name, Bernard Suits, and he tries in that book to define what it is to play a game.
Mm-hmm.
You would really enjoy that book. I'll send you a link. Uh, I think I may have a PDF version of the book, but yeah, let's not talk about pirating stuff online. Yeah, so in the book he says, if we reached a point where we were able to immortalize ourselves and live indefinitely, and in doing so, we found the fountain of youth, kind of. It's like we never die. Um, and if we never die, then we have an unlimited amount of time to answer other questions, other big questions. And eventually, we have the answer to every question we could possibly fathom. We know every single solution. We could live forever. We solved hunger. We solved poverty. We solved everything.
Mm-hmm.
Life will get really, really, really boring at that point. And what he says, in this utopia, um, we would probably put all this information, because we can't store it in our brain, we would possibly put all this information in some sort of database. Maybe that database would be in our brain. But we would willingly choose to not, if we had a question about something, we would willingly choose to not look it up so that we could figure it out by ourselves, because it's fun, because it's enjoyable. It's you choose the means becomes the end, and it's the same thing with games. You to play a game is to voluntarily choose to put unnecessary obstacles between you and the outcome. You're voluntarily choosing less efficient means instead of more efficient means.
Well, it's just a voluntary act of giving resources or expending resources like time and energy, you know, which is dependent on the game, individual game, which is mainly social interaction, simple joy, and experiencing life. It's a fundamental part of life. Going back to your point about the utopia, as you said, I completely think I can't say disagree because it's not your point, but I disagree with the point that the guy's making in the sense of it would be hell because what's the beauty of life? It's the reproduction, the falling in love, having children, this kind of you know the ability to have a family and to see things grow and mature and go through a whole cycle of life and death, to experience life knowing that it's going to end, that is living, and that is, more likely to bring you to heaven. If you are forever living and never going to die, how would you ever have a child? There would be no ability to have children, because the earth in 2 years time would become
Yeah,
completely full of
overpopulated.
people.
Yeah.
It'd be like battery hens on planet earth. Is that utopia?
Which
Not
is
for me,
which
man.
is funny that you mentioned that, because it is the direction in which we're going. People used to die a lot younger. Now people are dying at the ages of 85, 95, 100, 110. Um, the
Well,
earth.
that's what some people lead to believe, that it's exponential growth, right? It's
Hmm.
doing this, and it has done this so far. But then what JP was saying is that it's going to peter out at about 9 billion,
How
and so
so?
there's some kind of mathematical principle that actually it will never reach a point that it will destroy itself. There was something, I don't know. I'm not going to say too much about it because I don't know what I'm trying to actually say. But I know that what he was saying is actually that what's going to happen is this principle will basically get up like the E curve will do,
Hmm.
and then
It will
just
peter
before
out.
it breaks the limit, it's going to even out again.
And knowing Jordan Peterson, he probably explained it extremely eloquently.
Oh yeah, man, I'm rubbish at that. I really admire him. That's one of the biggest things I admire, is that his ability to converse and understand different types of conversations, and be able to apply himself differently in situations, and still be able to explain his points. It's like, wow,
Yeah.
so intelligent. It's amazing.
He's the
But
role model we never
exactly, brother.
had.
But yeah, let's get back onto
Yeah,
the
because I feel like we kind of
mainstream.
totally went off track.
I'm enjoying it. I love it, bro.
Um, how did you get into the movement culture? I remember you mentioning that you used to play rugby,
American football.
American football.
Yeah,
Okay.
man. Yeah. So okay, this is a good story. Well, maybe. So all my life I'm English. I played soccer until 18, around 18. Um, I got a girlfriend when I was 18, and I actually didn't do anything physical. It was a really odd year of my life. I didn't know what I was doing with myself. Finished school and took a year off. Got this girlfriend, and I worked in a clothes store, and I was just kind of completely lost. Then I stumbled upon CrossFit, and started to do CrossFit, and the whole social physical culture was really cool. This is something I can get stuck into. It's not just a solitary practice of banging my head against the wall. It's something that's interesting, and what I need right now, let's say. Went to university, long story short, and I'd been to America that previous summer to visit some family friends, and I was throwing the ball around, and I really enjoyed it. And they said, "Oh, why don't you see if there's something at the university? I bet there would be something." So I tried out, and I still had some physical nature about me, and I fluked a few good throws, and I basically what it, I basically managed to pick their like number one player in the first in the what do you call it, the
Mhm.
tryouts, and fluke a spiral to score a touchdown at the other end. It was like there's a mixture of netball and football, let's say. So that was like a fluky moment that got me was what turned out to be the quarterback position. So I did that. I got really committed to that, and that got me really into the social side of sport, being a leader, technical breakdown of it's not just a sport. We're just playing it mindlessly, which is what I did my whole life with soccer. I didn't ever think about it. I just did. All of a sudden, American football became this thing where I had to break things down. I had to understand what other people were doing. I had to have technical coaching. I had to work on S&C work that was aside from my skill. Blah 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 blah. There was so much that went into it that
Mhm.
I got really into it, and it basically became my priority university over my actual degree because I got voted to be the fitness secretary, we called it, which was basically the guy that was in charge of the team's fitness, the programmings, getting them to training every day, getting them to the morning S&C, 7 a.m. In the morning at university, trying to get
Sounds
30 to 50 guys to an S&C session after a night out is fun.
yeah.
Not. Yeah.
Trying to get yourself to an S&C session.
Well, I was the guy that was never out. I was
Yeah,
the guy
that's
that
true. You
if I was
mentioned that
out, I was
earlier.
driving and I didn't drink, so I was always like, no worries, I'm there. Um, Probably why I got the role. But that got me super into it. And from there, I was doing lots of my own kind of watching, like Elliot Hulse's, strength camp back in the day. Yo, Elliot. And his kind of functional, whatever you'd call it nowadays, ideas that were kind of Edo wasn't Edo back then, I don't think
Yeah.
so.
So
Or at least I
Elliot
wasn't aware of him.
was chic back then.
Yeah, there was some rumbles going on, but nothing really was going on. And CrossFit was still the cool number one, you know, thing breaking the mold in the fitness industry. And then I went to the Deutsche Sporthochschule, so the German sports university, in my third year.
Hmm.
Um, and my world was like, whoa. I
How
had this
so?
kid.
How so? What was so different than your experience in the US?
Um, well, the US was a holiday, and it was no, I wasn't studying. I wasn't really part of any educational system, so it was just me bumbling around.
Okay.
Whereas in Germany, I'm at this sports school, so it's completely everyone was there dedicated to sport. Everyone's got their own discipline, but everyone was also applying themselves in so many different areas. And I had this kind of the world's my oyster mentality of I can do whatever I want here. This is amazing. I've got all these amazing people to look up to and learn from. Sweet, let's go.
Mm.
New languages, new cultures. You know, for
Amazing.
me, it's amazing potential. Um, but when I got there, my mindset was okay. There's not so much American football here, and I had an impinged hip, so I had a couple of injuries in American football, obviously, and my hip got super bad, so I couldn't do my CrossFit, my Olympic lifting anymore. So all these seminars that I was about to take in the Olympic lifting, for example, I had to swap for gymnastics. So I did. This was in 2015, end of 2015, beginning of 2016. So I started this like gymnastics course at the university and learning Geräteturnen and basic stuff. And from there, I got super inspired. And the guy was like, "Yeah, you should learn to do a handstand and stuff." So I started to apply
Nice.
myself on that, and I bought myself some rings. And the buddy, my best friend David, he lived above me, so we bought some gymnastic rings and we tied them on his balcony, and it came down to my room.
Nice.
And we spent every day just trying to learn a handstand on the rings. And he's an amazing climber, so he took me to the climbing gym, and the rest is history. He could already do a handstand pretty good, and so he was a huge instigator for me, in that sense. And I think it's quite evident if anyone's ever been to a climbing gym, the culture is very open and very
Mm.
movement friendly to a certain extent. So people practicing handstands, yoga, slacklining, juggling. In Cologne, especially in the gyms, there's 5 or 6 amazing bouldering gyms, climbing gyms there. So there was so much for me to embrace. And from there, I came back after that year away, like, wow, I've got so much that I want to do and learn and experience. I don't want to be in England doing this degree, but I had to finish it. So I did my thesis on movement, because I did a design degree. So what many people don't know is I'm a design student. I got a master's of design.
Okay.
um,
But what you're describing now was a period during which you were doing your bachelor's. Is that correct?
yeah, so my design course was a 4-year integrated master's.
Okay.
So what it means is that I didn't essentially get a BA. I went straight to the MDes.
Okay.
So I could risk a year, and if I failed the final one, I wouldn't have a bachelor's to fall back on. But it enabled me to travel and still get a higher qualification as long as I put my head down. So
There's something that doesn't seem to add up. If you went to a design school, why did you decide, or how did they accept you into a sports school?
right, so when I was doing American football, and like I said, it became my number one priority. I was always in the sports faculty. I was always doing all the testings for the guys in any of the sports degrees, and I got really friendly with a few of the lecturers, and I was just saying, like, I've got this opportunity to do Erasmus, and I don't really know what to do. And they were like, well, why don't you apply for a sports role, or is there no degrees that would allow you to go in there? And when I thought about it, I was like, you know what? I'm designing for people, yet I have never had any experience or education on the physical body.
Mm.
If I'm to design for the physical body, surely I should know a little bit how it works. So that was kind of my in. I went to my lecturers and I said, look, this is evidently my interest. They knew that I didn't quite fit in. I was the one that was wearing shorts in winter and cycling in the pissing rain and squatting on the chairs when everyone else was like sitting in front of the computer all day. And my designs were always a bit towards that line of thinking.
Mm.
So they embraced it. I was lucky. I was able to talk with them, and I wasn't just one of the guys that would do everything he said and wouldn't give anything back. I was very forthright in communicating with them, and I think they respected that, and they were open to what I had to say, and so it worked in my favor. I think that goes for many things in life, is that if you're a good person's the wrong thing to say, but a person that's open and an individual that's
You could say a person with good intentions.
yeah, or maybe someone that's able to give and take.
Mm.
I think that's something that's always going to work in your favor, let's say. But let's go back to the story. So yeah, long story short, that's what happened. I managed to get onto this course. Originally, I'd applied for America, but I didn't get accepted to anything in America to do with sports, obviously being a design student. But there was a really good connection. The guy, Gerard King, he's a brilliant guy. He's in charge of the international stuff in Cologne. He had a really good contact with Coventry, and he was open to the idea. So I spoke with them, and they allowed me to go in. And
Seems like you hustled a little bit. You spoke to this person, that person,
yeah,
made connections,
that was kind of the
and
thing. Yeah. I figured in university, okay, it's a private institution. It's not a government-led thing.
mm,
There's a lot of leeway here.
yeah, a lot of wiggle room.
Yeah, if you just test the water a little bit. So I did, and it worked out amazing.
Yeah,
So I did that. Yeah. You have to jump through some hoops, obviously, of course, but things always seem to work out. So that's what I did. Yeah, that should figure out the story now. That's
yeah. You painted a different picture than what I had of you because Instagram.
Exactly, man.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so
That's why I started. Yeah.
I think I knew you studied something like architecture or design or industrial
Mm-hmm.
design or something like that. But I did not think that it was through that degree that you ended up at Cologne, the Sports
Mm-hmm.
Hochschule, and in doing so, you got exposed to gymnastics, which
Exactly.
is like the
Yeah.
body weight stuff,
Exactly. That's yeah.
and
Because what
it was because you had you had injuries through the
exactly,
sport
yes.
of football.
Which is
It's just
interesting because
interesting
I
to see
think
how
most people
everything
don't
like
see that. Most people would only see now and
yeah.
this current thing of, oh wow, yeah, he can do this cool thing, therefore he must have been a child doing it gymnastics,
Mm.
Well, actually, no. It's until I was 21 or maybe even 22, I'd never done a handstand,
Yeah.
or never done a handstand, never practiced to do a handstand. I'd always mucked around, and in CrossFit we were asked to do like keeping handstand push-ups on the wall sometimes, or I began to learn handstand walking, but I'd never actually done a handstand like in the serious straight line handstand gymnastic style.
Yeah, and
Um,
when I look at some of your videos, I mean, you're doing some things that till recently I think most people wouldn't even believe that an adult could learn at such a late age. Like things like helicóptero or macaco into a stalder press or macaco in like the recent video you posted. I was like, holy shit, man! This guy has time to work on his craft. and
Mm.
that was also something that I was like, man, how does he do it? How does he do it? How does he?
I think I will never put down the relevance and the utility of basic strength. I always had the base from the 2 or 3 years of CrossFit that I did when like 19, 20, 21. I was strong
Mm,
and I was always able to do like I was always working on my pull-ups. I was always working on like push-ups and stuff. I was always doing the jerk and the clean and jerk. I was strong in some fundamental things that enabled me to progress quickly through the basic stuff.
mm,
I'd always worked on my mobility with regards to like foam rolling and then basic stretching and in CrossFit. It was always something that I wanted to not skip like I always wanted to do as much range of motion as I possibly could. And when that meant that I realized some guy was squatting lower than me, then I would work on that to get better. And I'm really sure that if it wasn't for that base, I wouldn't have progressed so quickly.
it also seems like an attitude. It's this attitude of, oh, I'm not going to go out and spend my money on alcohol. I'm gonna stay in. I'm gonna be the responsible one and not drink and drive my teammates back
Granted.
home. I
Yeah.
am the one that's gonna save some money so that I can invest it in traveling, so that I can meet these people that inspire me on
Exactly.
Instagram.
And that's just
It's an attitude, you
yeah,
know.
yeah. It's personal sacrifice. I'm never going to say to someone that is what you need to do. However, that is what I did. What I do. I don't have loads of friends that are nearby me. My best friends in the world are around the world. From my travels in the last few years, I've kind of left all of my friends from university and school behind, or not behind, but we've just done this.
Mhm.
Some people have, you know, pardon me, sorry. Everyone chooses their own path, and the most important thing I feel is that you actually choose your path and you do something that you've chosen and not just mindlessly consume something and just stumble upon something and look back 10 years later and go, what the fuck did I do that for? You
Mm.
know, at least go after something you want to do, inspire yourself with something and follow something and pursue something that makes you go, wow, yeah, I'm proud of myself for that.
I
But
think.
yeah, what I was saying is, how can I say this without sounding like a
Why don't you just say it sounding like a?
uh, it's sacrifice is the perfect word for it. It's it's everything, oh, not everything. Most of the things I do goes against the social norm. Therefore, most of my life is this kind of questioning: was that good? Was that bad? Was that the right thing to do? Should I have just done that thing? Should I have gone to the pub with my friends and maybe I haven't seen them in like a year or two and maybe that would be good for my social life and it's something that I now need to bring back into my life. I've realized after the last few years being on the road so much and being able to reflect so much, it's like, okay, so some things need to change in my life. For example, since I was 18, I had that girlfriend. I never had a girlfriend before. Well, since, let's say. So that's a big thing in my life that I've completely missed out on. A big social group that are nearby, or a community or a culture. Hence why I started the group in London. It's like I want to surround myself with awesome people that I can embrace their energy and learn from as well as they learn from me, and we can train together, and move forward. You need to surround yourself with like-minded people close by. Um, Yada yada yada. So these are certain things that we have to chase and move forward. And I want to shut up now because I don't want to sound like I'm trying to preach because I'm really not. Like I said at the beginning, it's very much not a this is what you should do and this is what I've done
No,
and
it's
this is where I
personal.
am.
It's
And
personal. You're talking about yourself. It's talking about your personal. Uh,
blah blah
it,
blah.
it's like, yeah, no, but I believe you've taken Jordan Peterson's future authorship or self authorship program, and
I've
so
actually
have I.
done the more recently. I've done the past and virtues and what
Vices.
do you call it? Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So that was interesting as well.
It sounds very much like that though. Once you take stock of where you're at, and once you take some time to self reflect and be like, okay, uh, what have I done in the past? What am I doing now? What are my strengths? What are my weaknesses? Where do I want to be in the future? And you realize, okay, you've traveled the past 3 years, which is maybe the other person, maybe me, for example. I've had a girlfriend, and I've had a base, and maybe I had something stable, and now I want what you want. Well, now I want what you have, which you had the past 3 years, which is constant traveling and being alone and having friends all around the world, and so I think priorities change over time, um, and you know just
Perspective is key.
just to summarize this conversation, because I think we went all over the place. We can bring him back home with a nice little summary
Cool.
of.
I'll leave that for you, but
I think I need some help. So we started with the fact that through social media, people have this idea that you've made it, when you're when in fact the reality is it's an ongoing process, it's an ongoing project.
Yeah. Nobody posts, or nobody regularly posts the worst stuff of what they've done, the fails, the millions of attempts that went into X to do what it was. Some people do it well, other people try and do it to be funny, like me today. Other people, well, most people just post the perfect stuff, which is kind of what it is. It's a tool, and either you can use it to connect to economically, or you can consume it, which is the other side of the board.
And you
When you
chose
consume it, and all you consume is the perfection, then you only get this,
illusion.
yeah, one side of the coin, man. So that's why I really value the connection idea rather than the consumption idea, with regards to going and seeing people and actually seeing the realness of it, and then seeing, so this person that's doing this one arm handstand can still fail a kick up in a basic position, or can still, still has fears, and still has trouble with his girlfriend, or still has worry about money, even though we can do this amazing goal that I wanted to achieve. It's, they're still real.
It takes a little bit away from the ideal that you've created in your mind. It's like,
which I think we should throw away. There is no ideals.
yeah. Destroy your idols, as they say.
Yeah, man.
So when are you planning on coming to Berlin?
Okay, good question, dude. I got an offer to go to Munich. You know Neil Tiesner?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's teaching a small intensive in his hometown in Munich. So
Okay.
gonna head there February 9th and 10th.
Ooh, it's gonna be cold.
Yeah, well, I'll be indoors. I think he does a lot of the
I was just
acrobatic
thinking
stuff.
mid-Feb in Germany. Yeah.
No worries, dude.
Yeah,
I'm used to it.
Cool.
Yeah, Berlin, man. It's
Summer, possibly.
Yeah, I love Berlin in the summer. It's amazing. It's the best place.
It's the best place.
I'm actually trying to do kind of what you've had, the whole static idea. I've done this, the mobility thing for the last few years, and I want to try and, the other side of the coin for a while, and work on a few things in my life, and
Stay based in London, you mean, and not traveling as much?
Yeah, I'll still travel, but it will be more like shorter trips, once a month or something, once every couple of months, once or twice every couple of months, just because that seems to fit what I need to do right now. I got a few offers on the table.
And
Exactly.
get your name out there as well.
Exactly, and also to build something here is something that I'm really enjoying, in London. The group is awesome.
Is it your project or is it like
Yeah. It's simply just I wanted to start it up and do something. My good buddy Alex Nino, he's been on at me for a long time to start something, because he wants to open a facility soon,
okay.
in London, which would be amazing, which I'd be a part of. Hence the testing the waters, let's say now.
Yeah, yeah.
The can I really do it in this city? Do I see myself being here long term? Because it would be a commitment. So that's something that I'm doing right now. Um, and also, with an intense personal practice, I just started online coaching with Marcello Palazzo.
I've noticed some of your posts. I wasn't sure if you started
Man,
training with him or you were just kind
yeah,
of
yeah. I
like
just
random
started.
tagging
I
him.
thought I'd. Hey.
I wasn't sure if you were training with him and like working with him or if you were
Mm-mm.
just tagging him as in, just
Yeah, yeah,
like
yeah.
people
Just
like to
crediting
tag
his work.
people.
No, I mean, I've admired him for a while, and
Oh
I
man, he's
like to
amazing.
credit his work because he does some great stuff. But then recently, I thought, well, now I'm static, and I don't have so much outgoing on travel and etc. I can actually afford to invest in him now,
Mm.
which is what I never was able to do. I never had a coach. I never had someone to teach me, aside from the people in person that I was traveling to see. So I said to him, look, I'm interested in some guidance. And I got to a point in my practice personally where I was like, okay, there's something wrong here. I'm analyzing everything way too much, and I'm analyzing the whys way too deeply, and it doesn't make sense and it's not useful. So then, when I figured out that okay, I need to have this experience, and I'm missing the experience simply for the experience and the play and the enjoyment of doing it, and I'm analyzing because I'm thinking, okay, maybe this would be great for this online student, or this would be great to apply in this scenario. Or I took way too much the analytical approach, and never, and I lost the creative experience of being the practitioner to a certain extent. So I said to myself, look, I really would like someone to write me some stuff, give me some ideas, let me dive into how you do things. A, for myself, just simply to embrace it, and B, to feel how my students feel, so I can get even more of a better thing for them. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it puts things in perspective. You suddenly become a student and you have somebody else to be your teacher as opposed to you coaching yourself and you coaching others. You're constantly the teacher. You're your own teacher and somebody else's teacher, and it's when you get to see how other people do online coaching, or you get to see you get to stop stressing about making your own program, and you just have somebody else do it for you. And it's like, okay, I'm just gonna listen to you, bro.
And just
I'm just gonna
embrace what
trust
you've
you,
got to
and
give
my
me.
students have to trust me.
Yeah. And also I've dove into, I said to him, look, if I'm going to trust you, I'd like to, really dive into your work, not just you fitting your ideas into my work. I want to go, okay, no, I'm really going to, commit to the parkour, and I'm really going to tackle this thing of fear, because what comes with an analytical brain is this kind of over analyzing of potential fear,
Mm.
which stops so much potential. Like the amount of time it took me to get comfortable with the macaco stuff and the backflip, for example, and all these arching acrobatics movements is still such an ongoing process. I get so scared, and I really wanted to try and tackle that in a way that had a process, and with someone that was studying it. And Marcello was exactly that guy.
Yeah.
So we're doing all sorts of stuff. And we're breaking it down, and we're looking at the forward stuff, the sideward stuff, the backward stuff, the height exposure, yada yada yada. So I'm stoked about that. It's like my strength training has gone from like 6 times a week last year to now 2. So it's great, really great. I've got so much more time to do everything else, which is awesome.
But at the same time, that was a useful phase. You would say 6 times a week of strength training. I'm sure your body's kind of optimized for it right now. So I think 2 times a week is like
I was happy. Like, that's an interesting point that I think should be in the chat. Is this idea of God, the key principle of the practice for me is the ability to let things go. What I mean by that is not identifying with a physical skill or attribute. For example, a lot of people that I see get so caught up with a given skill that they base everything of themselves around that skill rather than really embracing the practice of chaos, learning things new, applying yourselves in new ways, challenging yourself to experience things such as fear or fear of social judgment or fear of being a beginner again. Because once you reach a height in one discipline, like I was getting pretty strong, to drop all of that and work on other things means that I will never, no, well, not never, but I won't be at that pinnacle for a long, long time. So therefore, it's like, whew, mentally it's tough, you know? Mentally it's heavy. And I can see why people do it because it's safe. But that's not for me, that's not the core of the practice. It's a wonderful project to look back on once it's done and go, wow, I undertook 3 years of hard graft every single day to do this thing that less than 1% of the fitness population, not the world's population, the fitness population could ever achieve. This is amazing. The dedication and the time it took me to do this. And it's such a boring practice. It's just simply standing still.
Yeah.
However, it's a huge use of resources. I also would add on top of that it's something that you can learn if you have a base of a good handstand in your mid-30s and 40s. It doesn't mean you have to do it in your 20s as straight away. It doesn't make you a bad practitioner if you delay it a little while. It's not like some maximal strength or power sports that you need to get in your prime. It's like it's something that's you have a base and you maintain it. Great. Play with it when you're ready, when you want, if you want. That's the perspective thing for me. It's like, hey, if you're still going to be doing this in 15, 20, 30, 40 years time, which in my perspective I am, I got all the time in the world, man. If I've only been doing this for 4 years or something, 3 or 4 years, no worries. So that's why I decided to go, fuck it, Marcello, give me some new stuff. Make me shit my pants. Let me embrace it for a while and then
Give me some stuff that I could do now while I'm young, because I don't think I'm going to be learning backflips when I'm 45.
You know, yeah, exactly.
I might, but
he's given me some all kinds of crazy shit, so it's great. Shout out to Marcello.
So now we can really. You're a pole dancer, bro?
I was recently in Barcelona with Jason. He's called Move More on Instagram.
I follow him. Yeah.
Awesome guy, such a good guy. I met him once, and then I just dropped him a message like, dude, I'm nearby Barcelona. I'm thinking about dropping by for 2 days to catch one of Tom Wexler's classes. Do you want to hang out? And he was like, yeah, you can stay at my place, no worries. I mean, just this amazing 2 days that we were up all night talking about all kinds of stuff, like we're doing right now, basically. And just we moved all day, like all day. We left the house at like 8 a.m. and didn't return till God knows what time it was. And it was amazing. Like just to have someone there that was like, you could just, that was on the same wavelength as you know. It's such a special thing to have.
Which is what you're hopefully building in London through this London movement.
That's the beauty of culture and others that are able to do that with you. It's wow. But what I would add to that as well is that it's different when you have an individual that is pursuing the same thing as you and an individual that is pursuing it to learn from you. And that's what I'm trying to figure out right now. For example, if you take two people, Jason, for example, he's pursuing this practice and what we're doing together for himself in regards to, he's a teacher. He's not coming to me as a student. We are, you know, I'm learning from him, he's learning from me. It's a two-way thing. It's not a hierarchical conversation or a hierarchical encounter. Whereas in class times and when my students come into the classes, as much as I try to move away from that, there still is, I'm the source of information and they are receiving more than less, more than the other way around. Therefore, it's still hard to have. I'm still trying to work out the best ways to go and hang out outside of group class, which we've done for food and coffee all the time. It's great, but moving is like they have jobs, like full-time jobs. They're not doing this for work. Therefore, the free time that I have, which is normally when they're at work. You see what I mean? So when someone's pursuing it for themselves, i.e. money as well as a job, then their free time is also the same as my free time.
They'll be acting like I don't even try. I ain't never lied. Been here too many times. I remember we was part. It's shining in the dark. It's staring in the rain. Wash away